GOP senators, very alluring senators, went to the border and they saw what the Joe Biden administration declines and actually presents the word to be. They saw what is a crisis, and the American people know it, I know it, you know it, our fellow citizens know that what's occurring at the border is nothing less than partisan ideological games being played by the radical Democrats. 6,000 children are crossing our border illegally. 42,000 illegal aliens are crossing a week. That amalgamates to 1 million individuals crossing the border illegally in 5 months, going to 2 million in 10 months, and so forth. And then the families of these individuals are paying sex traffickers and human traffickers to escort their children to the United States, but what's going on behind the scenes is much more malignant. It's really malignancy at its apotheosis. The children are being forced to cut the fingers, the toes, the arms, and the legs of their fellow friends in order to come into this country as someone who suffered really vituperative life, but in a very subterfuge, and indubitably it's very malevolent what these sex traffickers are doing. But instead of targeting the sex traffickers and the human traffickers, the Joe Biden administration is letting these individuals cross the border illegally, come into our country, earn welfare benefits, instead of giving those welfare benefits to American heroes, to our veterans, who some are living on our streets homeless, who have really extradited their lives to secure our peace, freedom, and prosperity. But time and time again, the Joe Biden administration, instead of having the avarice to put America first, has always put America last. My name is Anthony Gonzalez, and this is Constitutional Freedom.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rockets would glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you. God bless
President.
America.
Hey, as I've said, what's going on at the crisis is nothing less than ignominy. It's another disgrace, and I would say a monolithic amount of alternative ways. It's really an obloquy, is what it is. And I think that if you look at the Joe Biden administration, you know, it's unimpeachable that I'm a conservative. Perhaps you that are watching is also conservative. That's what I portend. And, you know, obviously, again, it's unimpeachable that we are acrimonious with the latest sophistical election. And obviously, the reason I'm concealing the other word that I would like to say is because YouTube will have the capability to take down my video. Now, recently you had Senator Cruz, Senator Langford, Senator Blackburn, you had Senator Ron Johnson, you had Senator Lee, you had Senator Grassley, and a couple of other senators who went to the border, and they saw firsthand what the Joe Biden administration is cloistering from your eyes, from the eyes of the American people. And I've said time and time again, because the Joe Biden administration, Jen Psaki, the Circle Back Queen, has always stated that they are more transparent than any other administration that has ever ceased to exist. That transparency is really the apogee of the Biden administration, and they love transparency. They're going to be transparent with the American people. Well, is being transparent hiding what's occurring in the detention facilities? Is that being transparent, Jen? I think you might want to amplify your pantsophy in terms of the definition of the word transparency, because you're doing the antipode, the complete opposite of what you say that you're good at doing. So, at the border, there have been 6,000 children who have crossed the border illegally per day. And these are not just children. These are individuals in general. You got males, you got females, you got men, women, and all these individuals who, in a very bumptious manner, decide to come into our country. The reasoning is simply because Joe Biden is president. One of the first people to be interviewed by, was it NBC or ABC News, said that the reason they came to our country is because Joe Biden was elected president, according to them. So let's take a look at that video of that illegal immigrant saying that the reason they came to our country is because of violence, because of vitriolic actions in their country, and because Joe Biden was elected president.
This significant surge coming after President Biden ended Donald Trump's so-called Remain in Mexico policy, requiring asylum seekers to wait there for their court proceedings. Since then, many of those tent cities along the Mexican border have emptied out as people start streaming in. We were there when a bus of 56 asylum seekers arrived at Casa Alitas, a Catholic charity shelter in Tucson. Men, pregnant women, and children stepping off the bus with only what they could carry. This father, who asked that we not show his face, traveled to Mexico from Brazil with his wife and 3 young kids before crossing the border. Would you have tried to do this when Donald Trump was president?
Definitely not. Definitely. We had the chance, the same violence that is going on today was there last year. We used to watch the news, and I definitely won't do this.
So did you come here because Joe Biden was elected president?
Basically. The main thing was the violence in my country. And the second thing, I think, was Joe Biden.
It's an ABC News correspondent who has a mask almost up to her eyeballs. I wonder if next time, because she finds the virus to be incredulously opprobrious, I wonder if next time she's going to put an astronautical helmet over her head. Because I think, quite frankly, it's hysterical at this point. It's really hysteria. It's political theater. So, 16 GOP senators, being Senator Blackburn, Senator Langford, Senator Lee, Senator Cruz, a very alluring senator, Senator Grassley, you had Senator Inf, and you had several other senators who went to the border, and they saw, as I said, a complete and utter border in crisis. So that word, crisis, if you say that to Jen Psaki, she'll say you're wrong. She'll say what you're saying is an utter duplicitous lie, that it's somehow disingenuous, and that it's not a crisis, it's a challenge, according to Jen Psaki and the Joe Biden administration. My inquiry to the administration is, what is your syllogistic, assiduous interpretation of the word crisis? A crisis is something that is happening, that is execrable and has an amount of arduousness in terms of resolving it, that is very difficult to resolve. Is 6,000 people mixed with human traffickers, sex traffickers? Is children cutting the fingers, the toes, the arms and legs of their fellow friends, the same age as them, in order to come to this country, being forced by human traffickers and paid for by their family members? Is that something propitious? Is that something that we should be effervescent with? Is that something that is favorable? Is that something that we should be happy with? Is that not a crisis? Because I think if you don't think that's a crisis, I don't think you know exactly the meticulous definition of the word crisis. So, time and time again, Joe Biden, the Democrats, have always stated that their four feelings, that any Republican who opposes illegal immigration is thereof a Nazi, they're a xenophobe racist, they have the avarice to oppose it, and because they have the cupidity to oppose it, they are malevolent Nazi fascists. That is what the left thinks of the right when they oppose illegal immigration. Yet, I would note that the reason the left is so hell-bent and so invigorated, and they don't find these individuals crossing the border illegally and earning welfare benefits and stealing the jobs of our American citizens, they don't find that to be calamitous. They're very, very gregarious about it because they are imperious individuals. They're very arrogant. They're very parochial on what is people abdicating our constitutional values because they look at illegal immigrants as people who will vote for them in the future. That is the goal of the Democrats. What does that mean? The 12 million illegal immigrants in our country now, plus the probably 2 million more a year that we'll probably receive, that's 4 years, that's 8 million more, 20 million illegal immigrants into this country. That's 20 million votes for the Democrats. That's why they want to create a path to citizenship for individuals who have never been in our country, who have never worked in our country, who have never earned their living in our country. The only thing they know how to do is steal American jobs. The only thing they know how to do is be lazy and live off of welfare, off the government, because they are very myopic and insular on doing so. Now, one can make the cogent that a lot of the individuals that flee Cuba and Venezuela are fleeing communism because communism is really malignancy at its apotheosis is what it is. Any communist individual is a person who lacks the intelligentsia, the luminary to be a benign or magnanimous person. That obviously communism has to do with lie to the people, take off from the people. That is the main syllogistic, interpretation of it. And I understand these are people fleeing their countries. I do understand it. But they need to come legally. And let me tell you why illegal immigration is something really calamitous and something really, I would say, grievous. When you have illegal immigrants cross the border illegally, number one, they're abdicating the constitutional values of our country. They're abnegating the foundational freedoms we hold so dear because you're allowing sex traffickers, you're allowing human traffickers to come into our country. And obviously, why do I say that? It's because most of the time, they come into our border. And the reason they do that, the reason you have children in large numbers, and they brought the nagging scale crossing the border, is because sex traffickers are identifying in a very subterfuge and charlatan manner as their parents. So what do? They try and create this disingenuous physiognomy of these children by having these children cut the fingers, the legs, the arms, and the toes of their fellow friends the same age as them. I'm talking about 5 to 10 years old, so that then they can cross the border and say, look at my child, he has no fingers, please let us cross the border. Please, Joe Biden, let us in. You can look at the t-shirts that Joe Biden ordered for these people. Well, at least it's what I portend or vaticinate happened. I think it's veracious at this point that that's what they did. Illegal immigration leads to individuals crossing the border illegally. Illegal, for those of you who don't know, means breaking federal law. When an American citizen robs a car, robs a bank, commits murder, conducts a mass shooting, that's illegal. It's breaking federal law. They get prosecuted, they get tortured in jail, they get the death penalty, they're worthy of capital punishment. Griswold v. Connecticut, something wrongly decided by the sectarian liberal courts would have been, at least in terms of the state that it was conducted, if overturned, would have been much more auspicious. When you have illegal immigrants cross the border, and they go ahead and they live off of welfare off the government because they don't have social security numbers, because indubitably they weren't born in our country, and a lot of them don't apply for social security because once they get social security, that's one closer step to becoming legalized and naturalized through the 14th Amendment, which is an innate way of legalization. Because they are illegal, the parochial, the insular leftists of our U.S. government decide to give them stimulus checks. They decide to give them welfare benefits, which means food, free Medicare, and then free education. And free homes. So food stamps, and individuals of really a Bunyan-esque amount of money, they can live off of food stamps in a very, they sequester and they prescind any form of infractious or onerous challenges because they're living off the government. While you have American heroes are U.S. veterans who every day extradite their lives, auguring what might be their last in order to secure our freedom, prosperity, and peace. The federal government does not care about them. Our American citizens, our farmers, who in a very arduous manner live day to day in the sun, in the blazing heat, to provide for themselves and their families. The U.S. government doesn't give them welfare benefits. But they give welfare benefits to individuals who don't respect our country, who do drug trafficking or operations in our country, who cut the heads, who abuse our children for money, who human traffic our children for money, and whose only ardor, whose only yen is money, not humanity, money. That is why Republican senators oppose legal immigration. Because it takes from the American people, it takes from those who are here legally. It takes the foundation and the constitutional values. It jeopardizes the safety of our nation. So forget feelings. That is the fact. You can oppose it, you can say that what I'm saying is me being malevolent, it's me in a state of what is not knowing what I'm talking about. It's me diluting my own sagaciousness, my own luminary, my own clarity. You can say that. But I'll tell you this. It's only going to get worse. Illegal immigration, unfortunately, when Joe Biden was elected, this was a signal to any and all illegal immigrants to cross the border illegally. So, Joe Biden, what does he have to say about this? Let's take a look.
Putting in place a plan that I feel very confident about, and I don't.
Joe Biden saying in a very mutinous manner, in a very subterfuge manner, that he's very confident about the border situation. He calls it a situation. He's very confident about it. He's confident about 6,000 illegal immigrant crossings a day. He's confident about sex traffickers and human traffickers cutting the fingers and forcing children to kill other children because of their imperiousness to come to the country. He's confident about a border wall that hasn't been finished. He's confident about excising the stay in Mexico policy. That means if your case as a sex offender, as a MS-13 terrorist is being negotiated in court, that you can just stay into our country. You can commit your vituperate terrorist acts. You can go rape whoever you want because, well, President Trump created that policy. And we don't want to follow protocol from President Trump because it's anti-Trump. Joe Biden, I call on Kamala Harris to cloister and sequester their imperious ideological perspective on things. Their sagaciousness is very parochial on radicalism instead of Americanism. The only thing they're propitious at doing, the only thing they're effervescent at doing is costing the lives, costing the jobs of their fellow citizens. And instead of giving their citizens welfare benefits, they go ahead and give welfare benefits to those here illegally. Instead of caring for their homeless veterans, they care for homeless illegals. Instead of giving $86 million to states in terms of COVID relief, they give it to hotels for illegal immigrants. People they don't represent, they love more than people they do represent. And Kamala Harris, when asked about this crisis, simply she said, ha ha ha, it's so funny. Well, to Kamala Harris, I inquire, what is so funny about a border that is so execrable, that is really in flames? What is so funny about the ignominies, about the opprobrium? You have people in the Donna facility in Texas, southern Texas, who are wrapped in tinfoil as if they were baked potatoes, 2 inches apart from each other, no mask policies. You have children in playpens without fingers, without legs, without arms because of the sex trafficking operations occurring in the border, whether it's coming from Honduras, the MS-13 organization, and you laugh about it. And you talk about everything that you do is humane. You said what President Trump did, kids in cages, was very inhumane. What you're doing is much more inhumane. Now let me tell you something right now. Those cages that the media for years said in a very charlatan, collusive manner that President Trump putting kids in cages was false. They knew it was false. It was a false narrative to change the election outcome in their favor. Because they were convivial with doing it, they were gregarious with spreading the lies through their teeth day to day because they hated President Trump, because President Trump exposed every single one of them. Kids in cages, we heard that for 4 years. Well, guess what? Obama built those cages and Joe Biden is continuing construction. And this idea that President Trump created those cages is an utter charlatan lie on its face. The pictures they showed to you during the President Trump administration was done in 2014 with Obama and Joe Biden. They don't look at these individuals who cross the border illegally as people. They look at them as animals, as potential manipulative individuals who they can get their votes from. This in itself, we shouldn't be condemning. You know, time and time again, we've heard the left criticize the right. We've heard the left criticize conservatives like you and me. They've said that the reason we oppose illegal immigration is because we're malevolent and malignant, total Nazi, xenophobe, racist, sexist individuals. That we are, and Hitlers, little Hitlers. It's quite hysterical if you think about it, how they always call us malevolent individuals, but the apotheosis of their sagaciousness is made up of malevolence, and it's really made up of malignancy. Let me tell you why we oppose illegal immigration. When people cross the border, that's less jobs for Americans. They get welfare benefits, our homeless veterans don't. Our country is in flames, their country isn't. Crime is up, American citizens are down. The lives of our American citizens are down. It's abated, it's curtailed because of the imperiousness of illegal immigrants, because they're not required to follow the law, because they're not even registered as citizens. What's occurring in this country? Is it appropriate? The Biden administration and their people are very truculent, very pugnacious individuals who are very insular on lying to the American people, and they do a very auspicious job. Senator Cruz, unlike several other Republican senators who instead of standing up for their constituents, of standing up for the people they represent, of standing up for America, they lie back in their chairs, in their offices in Washington, D.C., and they just extradite the voices of them, of themselves, and of their people, and they give in to the Democrats. Senator Cruz is a very alluring senator. A senator who opposes leaving the world, who opposes leaving the Remain in Mexico policy, the Stay in Mexico policy. Who approves of education reform, of military buildup, who approves of freedom, of peace, of standing with our sovereign nation Israel, and who approves of putting America first time and time again. And here's what Senator Cruz, a very young senator, and Senator, you have my vote. Here's what he said in regards to the border crisis created by Joe Biden and only Joe Biden.
Thank you, John. It is great to be back in the Rio Grande Valley. It is terrific that John and I were able to bring 18 senators down to Texas, down to the valley, to see firsthand the crisis that is unfolding here. All of us today witnessed the Biden cages. What is occurring here on the border is heartbreaking, and it is a tragedy. You know, as we stand by the banks of the Rio Grande, we have an army of TV cameras here. It is striking that not a single one of these cameras is allowed in the Donna facility. We requested that media accompany us in the facility. The Biden administration said no. The Trump administration had allowed media inside facilities like that. The Obama administration had allowed media inside facilities like that. The George W. Bush administration had. The Bill Clinton administration had. But the Biden administration wants to hide what is going on here. Not only that, but a number of us took pictures and took videos because the American people have a right to know what is happening here. And the Biden administration sent down political handlers to try to keep silent, to try to keep the American people not knowing what's going on. The Donna facility is a giant tent city. Built with a capacity of 250, it has nearly 4,000 people in it. We saw cages after cages after cages of little girls, of little boys, lying side by side, touching each other, covered with reflective emergency blankets. There was no 6-foot space, there was no 3-foot space, there wasn't a 3-inch space between the children lined up one after the other after the other. And children as young as infants. We saw playpens with infants and toddlers playing. We also saw a group of children who just today tested positive for COVID-19. The Donna facility alone reports roughly 10% of the individuals being held there are testing positive for COVID-19. Rates dramatically higher than the U.S. population, and the Biden administration is taking people who are testing positive for COVID-19 and locking them in cages side by side. This is inhumane, it is wrong, and it is the direct consequence of policy decisions by the Biden administration to stop building the wall, to return to catch and release, and to end the stay in Mexico policy. A number of us are releasing those photographs and releasing those videos so the American people can see what's happening here. This needs to stop. It is a crisis, it is a tragedy, and it is a man-made crisis. This was avoidable, this was preventable. And regardless of your party, Republican or Democrat, you should look at what's going on here and say enough is enough, this must stop.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today.
Cruz ripping the failed leadership of the so-called Joe Biden administration. That was also Kamala Harris laughing at the border crisis that she, alongside Joe Biden, have created. I can only stress how important having a border versus not having a border in affiliation with having a country is really indispensable to acknowledge. If you have a border in flames, you're not gonna have a safe country. If you have a border that's safe, that has a wall, that really curtails illegal immigration from coming into your country, which means more jobs for Americans, safer communities, more jobs, more prosperity, more peace, more freedom for your families, for your schools, for everything, more constitutional values, freedom being amplified. You have foundational liberties being amplified as well. When that happens, you have a country. When it doesn't, you don't have a country. According to Joe Biden, it's worth laughing about. It's worth lying about. It's worth hiding the ignominies of the illegal immigration occurring at the border. My name is Anthony Gonzalez. This has been Constitutional Freedom. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America.
With your help, we will take back the House. We will win the Senate. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House. And I wonder who that will be. Who will that be?
Donald Trump!
Who will that be?
President Trump!
Who will that be?
Donald Trump!
Who will that be?
President Trump!
We have gone from America first to America last. Democrats are vicious. Remember this, it's true.
Who would have thought that within 33 days we'd be bombing the Middle East? You can French kiss the guy next to you, yelling abolish the police.
With your help, we will take back the House. We will win the Senate. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return.